The Taste of a Grape. Part 2 of novella written by Zachary Cooper. Narrated by the magic of technology. Music from DarrenCurtisMusic.com. Dedicated to family and friends whose honest critique fueled this work.
Prologue. When we last followed our team, they had recently lost a few colleagues in combat in competition with an organization known as the Fang within the city. The Fang is not just a loosely organized group of nasty vampires, but they hunt around the world, demanding the obedience of humans, since they find themselves superior. You've never heard of them, because the organization has been keeping these small pockets of the Fang out of the spotlight. In many cases, they were superior, other than the complete exposure to not being able to defend themselves during the day, or the extreme vulnerability to fire, sunlight, and the demand for blood to last the decades, sometimes getting them caught just like most vampires. Unexpected allies, and luck, helped our team turn the tide on this superior enemy. It has been a couple of months since that massacre, on both sides. Each had lost colleagues, and vampire blood fueled humans, or ghouls, in piles of muscle and bone, but they would not be considered loved ones. It would be a far stretch of the phrase. These are the creatures that see decades and centuries. If social interaction is what one of them demands, they would leave themselves vulnerable to those who would exploit such a relationship. The scene that was left, after the wake of a vampire and werewolf massacre, was left to the imagination of the humans who were able to check it out the next day. Seeing chips of brick taken out of buildings, a collapsed fence, and red spills in the dirt, that were covered in bleach, could not be ignored, but none could explain it. Especially strange, there were marks in the buildings that were chipped away, preventing certain things to be found as well. Parts of walls and even the ground were removed, preventing claw marks of huge animals to be questioned. The many calls to the police through the night were unexpected. People have been used to gunfire, fights or yelling, but that night wolves were howling, and lots of gunfire, and what even sounded like fireworks were heard from miles away. There was so little evidence at the scene. The police had been there most of the day, cataloging material, and bullets, but not only was there little to explain the situation, those who were allies of the centuries-old creatures were there to prevent anything from coming loose that could damage their bosses or masters. Would things be okay for our followed team, or would they need to do more to clean up the mess of what has been dubbed the storage complex debacle? Chapter 1.
Hey, anyone ever tell you that you can be a real jerk?
A woman's voice playfully whispers into a man's ear. They sit together while others are around the area in a large room, but it is not as full of many other men and women as it was recently. The whisperer is a petite woman in most senses of the word, dressed in a light blue low-cut blouse with a little bust and small waist, a pair of black jeans, shoulder-length straight black hair, and inquisitive green eyes. The room is a musty-aired, yet still fairly large meeting place, an old dance studio, hardly ever used as such, but a good place for a meeting of this group of men and women, being what they are, and making this a less than random meeting. The creatures in the room didn't mind it being musty, not having to breathe, so it didn't disturb them. Old, grey-colored lead paint peels off of the discolored walls after years of neglect and no one caring about the status of this mostly unused place. Hardwood floors are in current repair though, little being more important in a dance studio. It is still used by some as such, but perhaps once a week, allowing it to be used as such by the eccentric owner. The petite woman is speaking to a man she knows as Zook, or Z. His plain beige trench coat is one of the few things most know about him around the room. His true name is little known, if at all, throughout the room as far as he knew, and he keeps it this way due to the shield of anonymity he likes to think that he has, amongst his colleagues. He knows many things about the beings around the room. Of course, they were all vampires, but as a private investigator, He knew many things that they would not want to be publicly known, and it kept him secret and safe. He has an armor of protection in his mystery, his hidden and unknown identity protects him from their little corner world of secrets. The Whispering Woman is a very unique new member of their group, having joined them only months ago, and having inherited a blood power that most of them know very little about due to it being more among the organization's enemies. She quietly speaks in the ear of a man sitting on his own on the perimeter, as he often did, at a table on his own, watching the room as others give him a slight glance as they continue their whispers, possibly about him. The room is known to the small cliques, either standing or sitting around small tables, with comfortable chairs. On a small stage in one corner sits a large chair, a highly dignified, one-armed woman sitting in it with a tailored suit made for her and her single arm, the other missing at the shoulder having been lost recently.
Why yes, kid.
He replies, smiling back at her, calling her by the moniker he gave her once they first met.
I've been told this, but it usually is regarding different contexts.
He sits, looking around the room from front to back like a surveillance camera, but doesn't meet her eyes. The one-armed woman calls out from her figurative throne.
With almost all of us being here, please give me a few minutes of your time, everyone.
The man, known as Z, puts his index finger to his lips, peering at the woman known as Tina out of the corner of his eye, to quiet his conversation with the petite young woman expecting an answer.
Quiet Tina, Zant, our boss, speaks and you know she wants to be heard.
The shepherd of their flock, or mistress of their mob, does not speak loudly, yet still heard throughout the room by everyone used to her speaking as such. The room becomes silent of the recent mumbling conversations or murmurs around the area. The acoustics in the room allow for such type of speech, and she enjoys not having to speak so loudly to reach everyone. It is one of the reasons they enjoy using the space, having purchased it years ago, still allowing dancers to practice on the hardwood floors, but these overnight meetings are private. She speaks fairly often, and when she does, the room gives her the attention she deserves, having been in leadership for a short time, but known to all to be vengeful if she is not allowed to be heard.
We have an incident we need to handle. Everyone will show themselves, and will speak to me or our large friend back there.
She says this, everyone in the room feels a wash of praise and respect for the woman for some mystical reason as their attention does not waver. She nods her head towards the back of the room, a large man standing near an exit door named Paul, wearing his thick black trench coat, red sunglasses, and a fedora that tops his head. It is known to be one of the fastest and strongest members of their group. He closes the front doors of the studio, which would lead to the reception area, and locks them. A side door is closed and locked by another woman, wearing a pantsuit and glasses, her librarian look tonight like most nights, walking back to her computer chair to the side of the stage.
A woman has been killed with 2 bite marks on her thighs, and her body was found by the police in the city. It was in a tub, and blood was not everywhere, which is not too suspicious, but we need to figure this out or it will draw attention from the wrong people. We need to handle this quickly and quietly. We need Zoop to handle the usual investigation, and others to handle the police and media so that this does not get loud. Everyone will stay put for now, till we can make sure no one here is being foolish enough to leave a drained body to where anyone else can find it. Then we will get out of here and figure things out.
Many in the hall walk towards the woman on the stage, but since Zook and Tina are closer to the back near the larger man, they both stand soon after she is done speaking, as though it was a thought of their own, and walk to speak with the larger man, with about a half-dozen others. They are seen by the man in sunglasses as he seems to bore into their soul, looking at them intently while asking them each separately if they know anything of the woman who was found by the police. Each of their replies in the negative has them dismissed, and after a nod at them seeming to be done with their needed conversation, walk back to their tables in their separate cliques, but Tina was not done with Z, and their spat. Zukail sits down at the same table he was waiting at previously and Tina sits next to him. Tina whispers to him.
I just found out about the bond our blood has on others, and you have been a real jerk.
She says this, and slaps him on the shoulder.
How was I supposed to know about the blood bond that our blood can have to those who drink it? Those that taste our blood, if they are one of us or not, become a lot nicer to us. I had to find this out on my own. I was with one of my old friends, who finally connected with me after getting used to all this. I asked someone about maybe making one of my old friends a ghoul, a human that has tasted some of our blood and given some mystical benefits of it, and someone told me, you have to give them enough, or they'll just be much better friends from a sort of mystical blood bond. Give some of our blood to humans, or even some of us, and they just get nicer to us, don't they, or even much nicer to us? You don't want to get on my bad side, big guy. I now have friends in high places. I have tasted your blood once before, and that must be why I'm not trying to strangle you right now.
Z smiles and giggles.
Strangle me? That's silly to those who no longer breathe. Oh, I didn't tell you about that? Didn't we go through quite a bit those few first nights? Actually, kid.
Zukail whispers and smiles back at her, referring to her previous nickname.
If you remember right, you've tasted my blood twice, not that it matters or anything. I wouldn't take advantage of the situation.
He is continuing to look around the room, but just seems to be more observing, watching, and listening around the area than looking for someone specific. He seems paranoid looking around, maybe he is, and cares not how his peers see him.
What? Twice? I only remember it once when I was at the operating table sweating under the watchful eyes of monsters who had to think twice about letting me repair their friend from likely certain death, or just killing me out of spite, even though I did nothing to them. This is an attack on me, a subtle drugging but an attack nonetheless. What if I tell the boss? She owes me a favor.
Z answers.
Telling the boss? Nothing much, kid. We've just become better friends than we were before. Think nothing of it.
He says this hiding a smile behind the palm of his hand, holding his head. He nods over at the one-armed woman at the front of the room, still speaking with others walking up to her and being grilled.
Zant is busy, and bothering her with this won't get you anywhere. She has done far worse in her time, believe me. You must be pretty upset since you were able to raise a hand against me. Be glad I have nothing untoward in plan with you. You asked whether you could taste my blood the first time during that one party, and during the operation, I did tell you the truth. Tasting the blood of a wolf would either make you go crazy, or you'd lose it offensively, possibly all over our new possible allies. You did the city a service, and everything was true. The wolves often do attack us on sight, and we've agreed to a non-aggression pact. If you saw them in the attack saving you and their friend, you'd be happy you won't see any of them following you down the street, and sneaking up on you. They sometimes do come into the city to hang around, and they have this thing against us. I'm still not sure what.
Tina also asks.
What sort of effect will this have on me if I taste your blood again? How long do I have till this effect you did to me goes away?
Zook replies.
Tina, do not worry your pretty little head over this. I won't offer my blood to you again, and the effect only lasts a year. You'll be fine, and it will just help us get to know each other more than we already do.
Tina gasps.
A year? This effect lasts a whole year?
Her voice begins to rise in pitch and volume. Some other faces turn towards them that weren't looking before, as Zant is finishing with the final few that needed to bring themselves before the lead of the city, or her muscle.
Hey, kid.
Z looks back at her, in a staring contest. When she acts in this manner he often called her this, still whispering, keeping his cool.
You need to calm down, or else be considered a novice for a couple more decades. I didn't take advantage of you. If you remember right, you asked me if I wanted you to strip naked right here in front of everyone, or in private later on tonight. I wouldn't have needed to have you taste my blood. I have other ways of doing such a thing. It might be a big thing to you, but if you don't get over it, we might need to have another conversation. If you think you have friends in high places, I have many friends in low places myself, and you should check with the record keeper over there.
Zook nods towards a woman sitting in a computer chair at the side of the stage.
and ask her how much Zan owes me. She does keep our records. Her name is Rachel, she's a delight. We deal in favors, don't forget this. You are a vampire woman, act more dignified.
Tina scoffs and walks away from one of her few friends in the room, being upset with him as usual, which seems to be a bit of a theme for them. She walks towards another group that is known as more of the loners or misfits. Perhaps she has gotten a few friends recently. Zan seemed to have finished up with the people she was speaking with, then calls for everyone to be silent once again.
It seems like we do not have the culprit among us that has been sloppy enough to allow a body to be found of an unknown woman, with telltale vampiric marks on her thighs, so everyone get to work. Those who can coordinate with each other so that we can get this handled. Zook, get with the detective in charge and find out what has happened, perhaps prevent more of this situation from coming to light.
Chapter 2. Investigation. After the gathering of like-minded individuals, Zook makes his way back to his car, and tells his driver and buddy, Bud, to get them to the district precinct. In his custom town car, black-colored with a white top, 2 back rows of seats face each other and a liquor bar is between them in the back. It is smaller than a limo, and there is not much leg room for passengers, but it is a way for 4 to talk to each other. Most would consider it pretty fancy, but he has had it for quite some time and has gotten used to it. Bud nods in the affirmative and asks if they're taking precautions tonight, about the traps built into the car to protect him. He often uses them in his car on the way away from those that some might consider his peers, but he still had many things to do tonight, and he lets Bud know that it likely wasn't needed for right now. The local precinct was about 10 minutes away from the hangout, and it didn't take them long. Zukail makes it there to find out what happened to the victim of the attack. He is known by the front desk crew as a trusted PI, and he gets no animosity from the local cops, because well, he is a legal investigator, and he often works for the cops. Sometimes he cuts them in on a good payday, also known as finding a drug dealer's haul. If he couldn't sell it all himself, the cops get a good bust taking down a dealer. He helps them look good, in a world that only too often does not follow the rules. He did have a fence he knew, someone he could sell contraband or drugs to for most small stuff, but his vampiric mind effects helped him on occasion as well. He had a good reputation with the cops. Zook also has a knack for speaking to hardened criminals and getting them to discuss their activity with the police, but only for the important stuff. He finds out from the front desk crew that Detective Cooper is on the new Jane Doe case, and he knew where to find Cooper's desk. They usually wouldn't say a thing, but he sometimes brought donuts, and there was just something about him that they felt they could trust. He walks past the front desk into the squad room, a usually messy room full of desks messy with paperwork that had yet to be processed. A few windows lined the army green and grey-colored boring walls. There was still a paper banner on the wall of the break room saying goodbye and good luck, for someone that probably recently left, or was removed from the force for something or another. Cooper was eating an egg salad sandwich from the break room vending machine, usual for him, and saw Z walking towards him, and ate another bite knowing where this conversation was likely going, and he wanted to finish his early breakfast.
Take your time, Coop.
Zook speaks to him close by.
Everyone's gotta eat.
Cooper, a midlife crisis, soon enough, detective, probably close to 40 years old or so, takes a sip of his decent cup of muddy coffee from the break room and looks up at the familiar face.
I know you are a night owl, Zook, but I didn't think you'd be checking on this one already.
What can I say? I draw out the crazy, and I heard through the grapevine that there is a little crazy going on tonight.
Zook turns on the charm walking up to one of his contacts within the force in town.
Zook, you know I really shouldn't show you our investigation.
Cooper seems to think longingly toward the folder. It is not usual practice for the police to offer out an investigation to any private investigator, but he does sort of like Zukail for some reason. It could be the fact that he is forced to like him using vampiric blood, or the fact that he, like some other detectives, is being manipulated by the vampire, who is good with people and his mental, manipulative blood powers, but he also just seemed like a nice guy, you know. He can't resist his smile for some reason. Cooper continued.
Yeah, we could really use some help on it, and I know I do say this all the time, but we really would like to catch this jerk, man or woman. The victim was left in this tub bleeding out. This one was pretty rough, she didn't even seem like she was 20 years old, yet.
He twists around a manila folder on his desk, listed as Jane Doe, number 4255119644425, on the label, as he takes another bite of his breakfast. The description flowed out of Cooper like he had it memorized, having to burn it in his memory.
So, blonde hair, brown eyes, this girl was the color of concrete when we found her, cold as ice too. Most of her blood was drained into the drain of her tub. The tub was empty, and 2 puncture wounds on her thigh. The femoral artery was punctured with the same weapon and looks like an ice pick, but it wasn't a deep puncture, just enough to hit the vein, and she was left there to bleed out. Could also be one of those prong gardening tool things, you know the sort of thing I mean?
Zook asks.
Sure, one of those 3-pronged ones that break hard soil. You sure she might not have been moved to the tub after she was bleeding?
He sort of doubted it was one of those tools. He wasn't sure what they were called. It didn't matter, but it was more plausible to Coop than a vampire bite. Answering with a finishing bite of egg sandwich in his mouth, taking a sip of coffee.
Nah, there wasn't blood anywhere else through the apartment. Was pretty strange though. We checked the plumbing of the tub for other evidence, and there wasn't much blood in it. There was blood in the tub, so the water wasn't going, and there was a little in the water, but not much to show a bleed out. Funny. Not funny, haha, but funny and strange. Next, the place was being rented by a corporation. We don't have the funding to look at too much, but we did a little digging. It seems like it might be a shell corporation, owned by one company, owned by another one. We are checking to see if we can find more that might be rented out like this one, but that isn't something we usually dig into.
Zook asked.
Name of this company?
Easy answer from the detective.
Company name is Pen 15, so yeah, we got the joke. We have a hacker on the computer of the hard drive, from a laptop in the apartment. The laptop was smashed up, but the hard drive is okay. He just doesn't have much to work with. You can check with him. He is working tonight, trying on the hard drive already. If you want, you might be able to check with the city morgue out of the hospital as well on the body, to see if they have found anything tonight if they've gotten a chance to look yet.
Zook replies.
Maybe, I'll check with the Fonz to see if he's found anything on the machine yet, and I might check in on the body. Kids these days and their computers might be showing something. You said he's back there? Hey, before I head back there, can you get me a cup of coffee from the break room?
He points over at the sitting coffee pot in the break area. Cooper has no problem getting his buddy a cup for the night. He trusts him with anything. Zukail takes a look around to see if anyone is watching, and checks out the file for info, before closing the folder and sliding it back. Z keeps the address where the victim was found in mind from the file. He looks around, pulls a notepad out of his pocket, and gets down the address where the victim was found, along with the Jane Doe number on the folder for later, 4255119644425. Cooper smiles a bit, as he was walking back.
You know Art hates it when you call him that, everyone knows it though.
He walks back and hands him the paper cup of coffee. Zukail stands to begin to walk to where he knew Art would be, down the hall to the computer gear.
Then he shouldn't have been born looking so much like him, or his parents shouldn't have named him Art. It has to be done. See ya, Coop.
Cooper calls down the hall.
You should join the force, Z. We could use a clever guy like yourself.
Zook calls back.
Nah, not till they issue laser swords with the pepper spray.
He walks away with his coffee, which he has little intention of drinking, and walks down the hall knowing his next stop. Knowing he doesn't have many contacts at the hospital, he sends a text to Zant with Jane Doe and the number he got from the file, City Morgue, so that someone can go and take a look, since he has a few places to go. He also makes a pit stop in the bathroom near the tech room to dump the coffee in a sink. Zook makes his way down the hall, knowing where to find the computer geek, the one that this precinct has on staff. He loves the guy though, he is a little obsessed with computer stuff, but it is a sign of the times, and someone has to be. The man is about 30 years old, always has a 5 o'clock shadow no matter the time of night, when Zook ever sees him, and drinks terrible smelling soda to keep awake while working. He thinks the guy spikes it while working, but he can't tell with what he spikes it, not that he cares that much. He also wears some protective glasses that help his eyes against bad light, or so they say. He walks in, turning the handle without knocking, trying to surprise him.
Hey Fonz, how's it going tonight?
Z walks in with a wide smile, as Art jumps out of his chair surprised.
Ah, bitch, I could have been watching porn on this thing, don't you knock?
Zukail answers.
On a work computer, or computer from a victim? Either way, you should be more ashamed than usual doing that sort of thing. Naughty, naughty, if you do get some home videos, you'd let me watch, wouldn't you?
No, old man, what are you doing here? Art asks, pressing his hand to his chest, trying to calm his too fast beating heart.
Well, detective.
Art wasn't a detective, he was the local precinct's hacker, but he had a few computer certifications that made him better than most in town, at least he thought so.
I'm on the new Jane Doe case. Coop told me you were working on the victim's machine. I'd like to check things out too.
He got a job here years ago, and Z's been thinking about bringing him into a set of people he can count on sometimes for certain things. He'd of course be a computer or tech guy for him, doing computer-like stuff to help him on the job, either finding people or getting into computers when it wasn't so simple to get into them. So many people just put their password on little notepads next to their computers, seems silly really. Art blurts out.
That's not how things work, Zook. You know that, I can't give you a thing, get out.
A half-hearted point at the door directed the man out, but he needed to know anything on the machine. Zook tries to convince him otherwise.
Art, come on, you have to help me out here. What are you up to?
The Fonz answers.
You don't work here, P.I., I can't show you a thing, get a move on.
Zook tries another avenue.
My brothers Andrew and Grant want to know a bit more, Fonz.
He pulls out a $20 and a $50 bill, getting the hacker's attention. Art's eyes widen a bit as he looked over at the cash. The cash moves up towards Zukail's eyes, and he does what he can to hypnotize the young man using his blood power to manipulate minds. It often works on humans, sometimes on other vampires, but their blood, and will against him, have to be weaker than his.
You will let me stay in the room and discuss the case. Detective Cooper said everything is okay, and it should be fine this time also.
The cash waves down back toward the man, and the hacker grabs it and pockets it. The hacker replied.
Why didn't you say Cooper said it was okay to discuss the case with you? It should be fine then.
What is going on?
Zook asks, being glad that it worked out. Things might have gotten pretty awkward. Art answers.
Well, we need to make a copy of the drive just in case we'll need to look at the evidence later, or in case there are nasty files that erase it if looked at or something, so we are trying to see a copy of the victim's drive. I'm in the background of the machine, through the old school system trying to have the computer guess what her password is. It guesses many times a second to try to figure out the password. If she chose to use a strange password, it could take a long time, but I'm running something to guess it by possible words, stuff like password, sex, fun, devil, whore, God, and all the usual stuff, but it hasn't come through yet. Kids these days aren't always as careful, so I might find it eventually. We don't have stuff like pet names, or old boyfriend names, those usually help. But we couldn't find any personal effects. The woman seemed to be in a place that wasn't being lived in, more like a vacation stop, or a love nest. All we found was a litter box, no cat around, no pictures.
If it comes up in the investigation, how should I reach you? I can let you know.
Art hands Zook a card, with the police precinct address and phone number for him.
Business cards, all fancy and professional like.
Zook grins and takes the card.
I'll see what I can find out, and I'll get you something if I can. You find anything else out?
Art takes a quick swig of something strange in a cup.
Nope, can't get anything from the machine till it speaks to me. If you find out any pet names, like for the cat, because apparently, she had one, or boy toy's name, let me know, might help me break through to find out about her.
Z walks with the card, and needs to get to the address to find out anything he might be able to find. Someone else might be able to check on the body in the morgue. His pocket vibrates, and he checks his phone. A thumbs up emoji is sent back to him by Zant. It does not have her name on the contact information, just her number. Chapter 3. Bud needed to look up the address where the victim was found to drive to it, and he drove his boss there before it was getting too late. It was getting very late in the night, close to sunrise, and it started raining as he pulled up. They get to the apartment building, and with a couple of hours still to spare, Z makes his way up in the elevator. There is yellow tape crossing the door, and a sealed piece of paper that is strangely loose between the door and frame, a seal that is supposed to stay on, to either prevent someone from opening the door without police permission, or it will show the breaking of possible evidence when the cops come back. Someone else might have gone in here after the investigation. Zook used his observation blood powers to check on the paper. It was carefully pulled away from the door. There was still some glue on the door, but with the paper loose, the door could still be opened, which it was not locked. The feeling he got from the paper was of caution, irritation of the sentimental value of something, and a feeling of loss in general. He left the feeling behind, put on a pair of leather gloves he keeps for such an occasion, and opened the door to the place. The apartment looked newly furnished other than a couple of pieces. The walls were painted in a light blue all over, and the furniture didn't seem to actually match. The place was marked around, there were numbers, chalk marks, and many things all over. There wasn't currently much evidence to see, most of it was likely with the cops in bags, and he wouldn't be able to look at any of that without being especially risky. Looking around, he sees a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom place, and a few pieces of new furniture, but much of it did not look very used, other than the bed. There was a queen-sized bed with sheets and blanket that were pulled off and gone, the frame, and the mattress still there. There must have been some evidence to check on from the blankets. Zukail turned on his heightened sense of smell and could smell fingerprinting dust, chalk, cat litter, and cat, or cat hairs. Looking around, he does find the litter box, with no marking on it, other than it was used but the cat wasn't in the apartment. Looking around, there were only a couple of new lounge chairs. The couch in the living area was sat in most. It had the scent of sweat and sex, likely used a few times by the victim, but he wouldn't know yet. The coffee table had no magazines, but some cup stains. There was a stationary bike in front of the TV, that smelled like sweat, old sweat. The kitchen had an empty sink, dryer rack had a few sets of used dishes drying, not taken as evidence. The fridge had 4 unopened bottles of champagne. Z put the name of the brand in his notepad. It did not look like a national brand. 3 unopened bottles of peach schnapps, 2 unopened bottles of whipped cream vodka as well, which he also noted, unknown on the days of the takeout food, but a variety of meal plans, Chinese, a couple of fast food burgers, and 2 pizzas of a national chain, One had sausage and pepperoni and other had bacon and pineapple. He liked the girl's style. He thought it was fairly unique, but he didn't know the stigma about pineapple on pizza, and he didn't eat pizza over his years when he ate anyway. A few slices were gone from each pizza. Next, he makes his way to the bathroom where the body was found, hoping to get something from where the body was unceremoniously left to drain, wasting the blood in the tub. Walking over, he used his investigative abilities to sense what happened. He checked one side of the tub but got nothing, the other gave him a sense of the situation. She was carried over to the tub as she was nearly dead, and he could tell she was lovingly placed in the tub. This did not seem like an accident. The body was laid down in the tub, and she was bitten on the thigh once again to puncture the feeding wound already there. She was meant to die. He could get a partial sense of the killer. He was ashamed that he needed to do this, the urgency was there, and he could partially get even the feelings of the attacker. If there was enough of the feeling of the being he was trying to get a read on, he could sometimes get an aura of that attacker or even know what type of creature it was, a vampire like himself, a human, or worse, but he was unable to get such a feeling here. The subject was somehow vague to his perceptions. Using his past reading of books in mind, he did some more checking around. He checked the air vents for anything, the back part of the toilet, but there was nothing. He checked under the bathroom sink, and there was a handgun there, which he left just in case. Searching more, he found a wooden stake hiding in the kitty litter, which he did take, which certainly did bring up some suspicious possibilities. Looking in a couple of closets, he also found a cat carrying crate, a small one, all signs of a regular cat. He also searched around for personal items, pictures, paintings and books. He found only a few, no books, no pictures of her being happy with another person. He realized he would need the blanket or sheets to investigate those to get a better psychic sense of the killer, but again they would be hard to gain as evidence being in the precinct already. He wasn't sure how much he'd be able to pull from them that he hasn't been able to gather at this point, other than possibly if she was lovers with the vampire in question, since there was a stake involved. He seemed to get most of what he could from the apartment and was about to head off when he heard some scratching sounds at one of the windows. It was raining outside, and Zook made his way to the window. It was one that had a fire escape metal walkway on it, and there, scratching at the window frame, was an orange and black striped tabby cat, wanting to get out of the rain. He goes into the bathroom and grabs a towel, gets back to the window, and slides it open to a seemingly frustrated and probably a little upset cat. He grabs it before it can jump inside, pulls it up, and dumps it in a towel, as it starts making crazy noises, not thrilled at this turn of events. He brings it to the bathroom, and into the tub. He uses his blood power ability to see if the animal is a special type of animal, another one of his that does not take blood for him to use, and it looks like a regular one, from what he can tell. Using the light amount of his ability to speak to animals with a blood power, which also takes no blood to fuel, he starts to try to speak to the cat as he dries it off with a towel.
I'm sorry, cat.
Its eyes dart up to his eyes, as he begins to meow at it to speak to it in its language.
I did not mean to be that rude. I needed a drying thing to try to help you.
The cat looks back.
You can talk to me. How can you talk to me? Can humans do this? It is strange, but I do like it. The nice lady that lives here never talks to me like you are talking to me, even when I tell her that she needs to do things. You are not the lady that lives here. Where is the human that takes me around to new places so many times? I hope she did not leave without me this time.
She is no longer alive.
The cat asked.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, have you ever stopped a mouse or bird out there?
Pointing out the bathroom window.
And it was not able to breathe anymore, bleeding and not moving? That is what happened to the human who lived here.
The cat replies in a more somber tone.
Oh, that is sad. She was my human, she was nice, she gave me sweet foods, and real soft food sometimes hard strange tasting foods too. Water and a sort of white water that was, what is the word? I don't know, white water and it tasted different, a good different. Are you going to give me sweet foods and feed me real food?
Z giggles.
Ha, you're human. Well, it depends on some things, I do not often have pets around. What sort of things can you tell me?
Zook brings the cat and towel into the living room and puts them both on the couch. The cat rolls a little bit more on the towel to help dry off. The cat continued to meow and stare at the thing that can talk to it, a new sensation.
I can tell you some things about the nice lady. I don't understand the things she was saying like I am understanding you, but she was nice, but the man she saw sometimes was not very nice. I was not able to be around when he was around. The nice lady and I would often sit on the couch there, watching the metal thing over there.
It says, moving one of its paws to the TV.
I didn't understand any noises coming out of that either, but she would pet me sitting there, and sometimes on the bed. Sometimes there were a few sleep times before the man would come over, and she wanted me to stay away when he did. It was the only time she wanted me out of this place.
It was also getting very early in the day, late at night, and he only had maybe an hour still open to get back home.
Do you know her name? What did she call herself? Did you see what happened to her with the man that came here?
No, the nice lady did not tell me these things, and the humans talking to her said many different things I did not know. I did not see the man in here with her, sometimes they did some mating. I could tell that the smell of the couch or bed sometimes was strong after they did, and I did not stay in the bed when they did that. Sometimes I sat in the chair.
Zukail needed this cat.
Okay, I will feed you and give you nice food if you come with me. What did she call you?
He takes a look at the collar around its neck. It said fluffers, which there was no way to translate in this sort of communication. The cat meows back.
Many things that she said were strange, but I do not know. She said the words, no, eat, out, friend, sleep, fluffer, she said no, loudly, bunches of times. That must be my name, no.
Zook told the cat.
You need to get into the carrying thing so I can take you to my home. Are you a boy or girl cat?
The cat meowed back.
I am a girl cat, but can I not just walk by you? I do not like that thing.
Zook doesn't often deal with pets.
I guess so, we should not bring it anyway, just follow me out of here. I sleep for a long time during the day, so I will have some of my friends help you. I will have them get food, litter, maybe a couple of toys.
The cat showed a strange smile on its face.
Oh, that is very nice of you. I sleep a long time during the day also. I will call you human, but you aren't, you do not smell like one.
He answers.
No, I am not human, I have not been for a long time.
The cat felt much drier from the towel and got up.
Well, okay, you sort of smell like the man that comes into the place when I am not supposed to be there. I'm not sure what that sort of smell is. Hey, before we go, my human that lived here, was eating something she never let me have. It is in the weird box where she keeps her food, can I try some?
What stuff do you mean?
He goes into the kitchen. He is wary of taking food or treats due to evidence. The police could find him out somehow. She answered.
The stuff in those longer good smelling things in the box that makes things colder.
Possibly meaning the pizza. Z takes them out and checks them. He takes a few pieces of the bacon, sausage, and pepperoni, and puts them on the floor. The cat goes to town on the food she isn't usually allowed to eat.
Thanks, not human man. No wonder my human did not let me eat that. It is very tasty. Take more of it?
He apologizes.
No, sorry, we can only take pieces of it. Other humans will be looking through this place many times, and if they find much missing, they will be very angry.
He gets a reply back from the cat.
Okay, fine, it did taste pretty good though. Can you get me more of that food?
He answered.
Yes, if you help me with anything that I might need to know.
The cat follows the man in beige, non-human male who she can understand, and says he will feed her. He grabs the towel he used to dry her off as well. He's dealing with a cat now, he'll check in with Art tomorrow night, he better get in the car. They hit the ground floor of the elevator, and walk out. Zook does not have much longer.
But we have a visitor, we have to get home, we are bringing her.
Bud asked.
Boss?
Zook said.
Yep, just get us home.
The doors unlock, and Z opens the door for the cat and gets in. Looking at the cat again.
Please do not scratch up the seating parts of the car.
He sets down the towel he took from the apartment and tells her to sit on that. Fluffers replied.
Okay, I can be careful. Where are we going?
Z answers.
To my home, you will stay, eat and walk around the house. I will sleep and we will talk more at night.
Zook goes back to human to speak.
Bud, we'll need some cat stuff, litter, a box, food, treats, and a few toys. This cat is a witness.
He calls back in suspicion.
A witness, boss?
While still watching the cat, Zook answers.
Bud, you know me, this is a special cat, and it will be royalty today. When I sleep today, go shopping, the cat will stay at home, it needs to be safe.
Yes, boss.
Chapter 4. Bud drives as Zook sits in the back with the cat in the back of the town car. Zukail slides open a compartment to the side of the bar to press a button to slide up protective lids, like airplane window guards sliding upward, so that the sun would not affect him if they did not make it back to his home before sunrise. He might get too tired to hit the button before it got too early. He'll check in with the hacker tonight. He doesn't want him to think that he has someone already, and probably would want him to bring the cat in for evidence. Looking into the cat's eyes, Zook connects with the animal to be able to speak in the capacity that the cat can discuss the situation.
So, she called you Fluffers, would you rather be called something else?
Oh, that is why she said that so many times? I guess you can keep with that. Does it mean something in human?
Zook smiles, and thought it was a bit early to talk about naughty talking to a small cat.
No, not really, probably not what she was meaning anyway. So what can you tell me about the lady that helped you?
Boss?
Zook hears Bud from the front but doesn't look up.
You okay back there? It sounds like you are arguing with a sound effects guy.
Back to human speak, English.
We are fine, Bud, just get us home, I'll let you know a bit later.
Back to meowing back and forth with the cat.
Can you tell me things that happen with the nice lady?
The cat answered.
Well, we went to different places with most of her things after a good set of long sleeping times. That place was pretty new, but we did not move far from any of these large human places. I was more of an inside cat than an outside cat, but she most often took me outside of the place where we were. If it was a downstairs apartment or a small house, they were usually pretty nice, with many places to sleep when the sun is up, many times when the human was awake. She might have picked me up to leave some nights, but she seemed happy when he came by. She did not leave to do many things. I do not know what many humans do, but when she left, she was not gone too long, and came back with food for her, and me, which I liked.
Did you go to different places many times, like can you remember any of the places you went to?
Yes, we went to many different places, but I cannot remember how many, it didn't matter. I cannot tell you the places though, I would not remember.
Zook began to get drowsy due to daytime coming up, and he was not going to make it home before passing out.
Fluffers, I am going to sleep now, and I will not move, but I will be okay. My friend up front, who is driving, will take me inside, and let you go around inside. Do not pee on or mark anything, I will not like that. If I hear from him that you marked anything, you will not get sweet treats. Do you have to go like you were going to go in the strange smelling rocks? We call it a litter box.
She answered.
Yes, I need to go if you do not want me to do that in the house. She did not like it when I did that either. Can you let me out soon to do that?
Back to human talk so he could tell Bud.
Hey Bud, pull over for a few seconds, we need to let the cat out.
Bud dutifully pulls over. Zukail doesn't have more than a few minutes without passing out, but he lets Fluffers out for a quick bathroom break, and she jumps back in after that. Back to the cat.
Okay, no marking anywhere in the house. My friends will get you another box and litter to do that in. And good food, and we will talk more tonight.
Zukail was struggling to stay awake. He reached under the seat to punch in the code to open the compartment under his seat so that it would allow him under it. Popping out, it allowed him to move it out of the way and he got in. Before he covered it up, he had to let Bud know the deal with the cat. Back to human speech.
Bud, let the cat inside at home. Someone needs to go shopping for the cat. Don't let it down with me, but it can roam around. Get a litter box, litter.
He lets out a yawn.
Real food, no dry stuff, cans, treats, and toys, and let her check the place out. Catnip too, get some of that if you can.
Shortly after he was able to finish the sentence, he pulled the protective cover to block the light from coming close to him, blocking his tiny compartment. The sun rose and Zook was out like a light. The next night, Zook woke in his usual bed, no cat around. He was glad. He was pretty sure the cat was a normal one, but in this world, who knows, it could be some mutant cat or a werecat. He wasn't sure if there were those, but he knew of werewolves of course, and he had heard of wererats but knew nothing of their system. He knew the aura of a werewolf was much different than a regular wolf, and this cat's aura seemed plain, like when he went to the zoo, which he still did. Z dressed comfortably. He didn't have anyone he needed to impress so far tonight, but it might come to it eventually. He walked upstairs to a bunch of store bags, and a comfortable cat sitting in the lap of a comfortable driver petting her, and she seemed happy. Bud picks up the cat off his lap.
You know, I'm really more of a dog person, but this cat is all right.
Don't let her hear you say that, man.
Zook smiles back at him. Bud covers his mouth.
Oh, sorry, could be the food, we gave her some stuff, and we got a litter box, she should be fine.
Zook tells him that the cat can't understand him, but it is fine, and lets a smile loose on his stoic face. Zook looks into the cat's eyes.
Are you okay? Need food, water, anything?
No, I'm okay. This human took care of me. Can I keep him?
Zook takes the cat, doesn't lose eye contact, and tells Bud to clean off the couch, and asked if he got one of those hair clean things. Bud says,
It hasn't come up, boss. The litter box is in the bathroom.
Zook continues.
Well, it has now, hasn't it? Either you or one of the guys go get one to make sure this place doesn't go bad.
He brings the cat to his study, a medium-sized room in his not-too-big place, and sits her down in one of the two comfortable chairs in the place, two of his favorites. The study is comfortable with large chairs, and books surrounding them along two of the walls on shelves, and darker colors on the walls to bring more of a restful feeling over brighter colors. He walks over to a record player and turns on some non-vocal stuff to add to the calm of the room. He did mostly have non-vocal music in this room so that he could read but have something on in the background. Before getting into the needed conversation, he calls Art, the hacker. He pulls the card from his wallet, dials the number, and gets the last name to find. The phone goes to voicemail, said it is a non-emergency line. If you have an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. This went on till he can dial in for Art, but he doesn't catch him. He could only leave a voicemail.
Yo, Fonz, it's Z. I think this thing is spelling your name wrong cause I see on your card it is Gables, but I know your name is Fonzarelli, right? It took me a second to find the right voicemail box. Anyway, try Fluffers as a possible password too, with an S at the end, that might help. She could change it to a Z or something, you know what to check for probably. Call me back if you get a hit.
He looks back at the cat to speak with her.
Okay, so you were telling me about what was going on with your human. There would be sleeping and wake up times between when the man would come by to see her?
The cat meowed to be understood.
Yes, so many times of long sleeping before the man came by. I'm pretty sure they made it, but could not easily tell. She usually got a bath after he was in the place also. She smelled nice, but she seemed sleepy. She would usually rest the not sleepy time, the time after that she would be happier, walk around the place where she stayed, using the strange exercise things she brought around. That was one thing she liked bringing around with her to different places, other than the cloth coverings, and me, the strange exercise thing. She would carry it herself to different places, and it would usually smell. I didn't like that thing.
The bike thing you mean?
I don't know what it is, but it was by the long chair thing, in front of the warm noise box. Anyway, after a couple of times when the man comes over, we would go to another place. Not sure how she knew about the places, but she would have one of those metal things, like yours we came here in, and it fit the exercise thing, and the small number of other things she kept moving around with her. Usually, when she went to a place, it had chairs and noise boxes in them already, and the places where she cleaned herself got warm and steamy when she was in them. Then her mate would come over after a few more long sleep times. They made it a couple of times again, and then we moved again. I did not mind it much, but this happened many times. I would not know how many, I lost count. Every time I could come in, his scent was usually mostly gone, but it does sort of remind me of the smell of the chair here, and some of the other smells around the house. Has he been here?
Z meowed back.
I do not think so, but he might smell like me because he is a thing like me. I am not a regular human. So, she was being moved around, possibly by that man. Could you get any strange smells from him, or did he ever stay in the place where she stayed over a long sleepy time? Or night, that is a night, and the long staying awake time is a day, well for most people. Just go with that.
She answered back.
If that helps you, sure. Long dark sleepy time is night, but that does not make sense because you sleep all of the awake time. I also sleep many times over the times that it is bright out, so it is hard to tell. Is it maybe easier to think of light or dark times?
Zukail tells her.
Never mind, that is not important. What about him? Can you tell me anything?
She answered.
Well, one time I did see them mating. They were both making noises, but I was outside and did not want to disturb their mating. It would not be nice. He did bite the sticks that come out of her body, like these out of mine. He had sharp teeth like me, but she seemed to like it when he did that though. I did that a couple of times being playful. I bit her finger or her hand when she put it in front of me, and she did not like that. I did not think it was fair. I know the smell of blood, and when I was able to come back in, after the next dark time, she did sort of smell like that, and she was a little sleepy again.
Zukail answers back.
He is a thing like me, these things with hands where I can pick things up, they are arms, the things that I walk on, they are legs. You have all legs. Do you know if he did not like her for some reason?
Fluffers tried to understand.
Oh, okay, arms, legs, well human talking is hard. Anyway, they did like each other, unless the mating was not the way I think of mating.
He tried to clarify.
That is not what I mean, do you know why he might want to hurt her? Did you hear anything from a few long dark times ago? Anything else you might be able to give me? Humans have things that make them leave the places they live for a long time, called a job. Do you know if she had one? Did she sit at a computer for a long time? It is a plastic or metal thing. Come, I will show you. Do you know if the man knew about you?
He walked Fluffers over to his upstairs computer with the lounge chair in front that swiveled to a basic computer. He turned it on.
Not that I can think of. I'm not sure how much he might have known about me, and she had something sort of like this, but she did not sit at it very long.
Another question, Fluffers, did she ever try to do anything before this man came over? Did she get a call or text, like she had a plastic thing that made noises?
Z pulls out his mobile phone.
Most humans do these days. Did she eat or drink something a lot?
She did not drink much but the water I think, until about the time when he might be coming by. Well, maybe. It isn't something to pay attention to, you know? The time is tough to think about. She got strange when she did, but then she drank foul-smelling stuff when she heard some noises from the plastic thing like you showed me, and then a little bit before she wanted me to leave for a little bit, she would drink the other stuff from the cold box. She would drink it many times.
Zukail gathered a bit of info from this. She likely was a paid woman, a person who was paid and fed by another vampire. She worked out, ate well, and would maybe have sex, but likely more often was fed from by her keeper. The one who fed on her liked liquored up blood. She might have needed to be drunk so he could get a bit of a taste from it. Her rent was paid, and she went out for small stuff and moved around all he needed for safety, but he wanted to find out why he did not need her anymore. He fed one last time the other night for some reason. Many vampires wanted to keep track of who they fed on, and if they could handle the costs, they kept them safe and made sure they didn't give blood at the Red Cross or donated plasma. He likely knew about the cat, but probably not knowing her as a possible witness. He'd need to find the vineyard where the champagne was from, and hope he can get a fix on where they sold so he can check on that. If they sold all over it would be harder, but if she bought from them, it could help. He guessed with all the liquor, that whoever he is looking for liked to drink drunk blood. Now it was likely confirmed. If he was lucky, the vineyard would have a listing, or if they sent it to her they'd have other addresses. She asked.
Oh, I have a question for you, non-human.
Go for it.
She went for it.
Why do humans wear cloth coverings? Plus, where did that light go?
He smiles and answers her.
Current times for humans are modest about their bodies, and dangling body parts if they were walking around. Long ago we used to not wear so many of them, but running is pretty hard for us without them. It is also easier to clean the cloth coverings than clean ourselves if we spill food on ourselves. What light do you mean?
Fluffers looks back.
That light, I see it, but I can't stop it. I saw it all the time at my human's place, but I could never catch it. It always appears in different places also. I can't get it and it is driving me nuts. What do I call you?
Zook smiles.
You can call me Z. Not sure what you are meaning by the light, but I will see what I can do. Let me know if you find it here and we can hunt it together.
Z, that is a strange name. Okay, well, I'm bored with all this talking, even though it is new and strange talking to a human, or non-human like this. I got some toys from the large humans, do you want to play?
No, thanks Fluffers, I have things to work on, and think about. You can play with anything you want. Are you hungry or thirsty?
Yes, I want some of the meat stuff like was on that good smelling stuff from my human's cold box thing.
Zukail got up and walked to the kitchen with the cat on his heels to see what his humans' retainers that he kept around the house were able to buy for the cat. He also took the cat litter out of the bathroom and put it in a more accessible place, so that the cat could use it when needed. The bathroom door usually stayed closed. He was preparing some food and thought of the conversation. First, to his knowledge, the animal-speaking blood power he had, worked on normal animals alone, at least it was supposed to. Other than the grammar, which probably needed a little bit of work, the cat seemed very much to not speak like a supernatural thing. He could use a little practice, and maybe even teach the cat some English, so that he could practice his different abilities he was practicing. He wanted to work on an animal blood power that manipulated their mind as he can do with people or some other vampires. That needed a bunch of practice though. He probably could have gotten a pet by now. He gets a call from Zant, the boss.
We have to get together with everyone tomorrow night, not urgent, but we might be dealing with some fallout from the last encounter. We'll consolidate some info, and see what everyone has found. Meet tomorrow night, usual place.
Couldn't exactly go over too much, the world could be listening. It was a shame that they can't trust technology. Sometimes it was helpful, but it could also get them all killed one day. On his way to the basement, where he can just walk instead of being carried, he passes by Bud, who is coming back in with another set of bags.
Today, if you need rest, that is fine, but either you or the other guy, Steve, need to get out and get a laser pointer.